am Dr. Rana Al-Falaki. Welcome to another episode of Be Free, Be Fun, Be Fearless. So today we are sticking with a rather current situation, and that is the situation of events and what has happened to our life here in 2020. Well, yes, events are exactly like this, through the screen rather than in person, which is a very sad situation. But there's a massive industry that have had to be sidelined or reinvent themselves in some way. So I am thrilled to be joined today by someone who has done exactly that. She really is a wealth of knowledge, experience, and true inspiration in what she has done in the past and what she is currently doing, which is really exciting. So a fellow Brit at last. You know, most of my guests have been American, or one from New Zealand, one from Africa. So I finally get a fellow Brit. Welcome, Corby. Welcome to Corby Hair. Hi.
Hello. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me to join you.
Absolute pleasure. Now, Corby, you have over 25 years experience in the events industry.
Absolutely do, yes. I started in events when I left university with a business degree, and so it's been the only industry I've ever known. I've been in that space for actually more than 25 years, but we'll just stick with 25 today. And I've worked across a whole host of events, from what I'd call consumer large festival experiential events right the way to the other end of the spectrum to high level technology shows. And obviously with the pandemic, most of the activity most definitely has stopped. Face-to-face visits are obviously not allowed. So the whole industry is at a standstill at the moment.
So when did you start to get warning bells about it?
We have a big event in the calendar that I tend to go to annually, which is called the Mobile World Congress, which takes place in Barcelona every year. It's a great event, over 100,000 odd visitors. Anybody and everybody that's in technology tends to go. It's huge, and it's a great place to network and just see what all the latest trends were. Started to get sort of a sense of something was going on towards sort of mid-January, when some of the big players like Amazon and Samsung and Sony started to say they weren't going to be there this year. I mean, obviously at that time here in London in UK, we were watching the news about Wuhan. And, you know, I think everyone at that time thought it was a China-centric problem or an issue, or, you know, like SARS, it sort of originated there. So I think we were all looking at that. But when Mobile World Congress started to post statements that certain large American tech companies were stepping back, my alarm bells started to ring a little bit.
And how did that make you feel?
Well, I think initially, you know, being from the events industry, we're all very resilient. I had a diary of events to visit here in the UK. You know, there was big technology shows taking place at Excel. And I really do think at the time we started to think it's a problem over there. Quite a few people hadn't made the correlation between Amazon, Samsung and Sony pulling out of the Mobile World Congress, but a few of us were suspicious of, you know, why are they walking away from it and how will that impact our industry? And then, to be honest with you, it snowballed so quickly. We went from, you know, hearing about the tragic news in Italy, and it was coming closer and closer to our doorstep, to a delayed lockdown here. I honestly thought they'd pull the plug here around about March, early March, but they obviously didn't until a little bit later on the 23rd. So yeah. And at the time, I think we all thought, okay, you know, this will be for a couple of months, and by the summer, certainly by autumn, we'll be back on business. So meanwhile, the events industry, given that they're very creative, they immediately went online like we are now on Zoom and other platforms, and continued hosting their, you know, their knowledge workshops or whatever. But now it almost feels like we're in this state of limbo, really. We want to get back to physical events because, you know, people buy people first, and we're human. We like that face-to-face interaction. And, you know, you know, the virtual and the physical, you know, blended events, if you want to call them. But I think we thought we'd be more physical at this stage, and we're still not. And I'm not even sure that we will be ready for spring next year. I think the earliest will be summer next year. And the organisers will rethink and do more events outdoors, which is the safest place to host them at the moment.
So how much, I mean, this is it, because like you say, an event, it's not like, okay, someone hits the green light and you can pop it up overnight. It takes months and months of work, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you can call it a campaign, an event campaign. If you, like, for example, I worked on Cisco Live many years ago. That was hosted in Milan. That involved global teams from around the world. It takes a whole year to plan. These events are like £10 million events. You literally are taking anybody and everybody that's involved in that space to an empty building, almost an aircraft hangar, which you completely build up from scratch. And that takes on a huge ecosystem of your staging people, your camera, lights, action, the whole production teams. You've got people that do the registration. You've got all the taxis, the concierge, or what we call shuttle services to get delegates from A to B, the whole delegate journey. You've got the hotels, you've got the flights, and then actually on the ground, you've got all the hospitality that surrounds the event, such as the catering, the security. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of people employed in this sector, and it's absolutely heartbreaking that most of us at the moment are out of work, can't work, won't, just can't physically work because the events industry has just ground to a halt, a bit like the aviation industry.
Yeah, exactly. So even, like I said, even if you got the green light, it would still take so much time to actually implement and put something.
To pull it all together, absolutely.
Deadline.
And then, you're consulting with sponsors and exhibitors, and you're putting together speaker platforms. So you're recruiting your speakers, you're sorting out their schedules. There's so much that goes involved. It's like creating a wedding, a huge, huge banquet for, tens of thousands of people. And now, obviously, as you know in the news, the Excel Centre, the NEC in London, the NEC Centre in Birmingham, and other exhibition centres are actually at the moment used as hospitals for the coronavirus, for the COVID-19. So they're all emergency beds are there. So the exhibitions industry has literally just been tapped down into the ground for now.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a huge amount of planning. I know myself when I'm booked for a speaker, unless they get in early, I'm usually booked up about a year ahead as it is. So
yeah,
it really does take a huge amount of time. So, go on. You want to?
No, that's fine. I was just agreeing with you, actually. I mean, the speakers for sure. If you want a quality speaker lineup, then you've got to get the speakers well in advance. And I think now that there is a forum full speakers on the virtual events, but we're still missing that, that special part of the event where people are actually meeting face to face and networking and building relations, which is hard to do over a virtual platform.
Yeah, so this was going to be my next question, because there would be some people who would argue actually virtual can do everything now. Virtual conferences, we go into breakout rooms, we can even have these virtual coffee meetings and shops. You and I met at a virtual event.
Yes, we have, yes.
But how is it so different?
Well, I think it's great. I think it's brilliant that we've got technology. And I'm a big promoter of technology. I've worked in technology events now for a number of years, promoting the Internet of Things and most recently blockchain. So, I pulled together thought leaders from around the world that have got something to say about digital transformation in different industries, different vertical sectors. So I'm really glad that, we have got this virtual capacity to just get online and connect. I think it's broadened the appeal for some events or some sessions because you can go worldwide. You're not having to fly, you're not occupying a hotel room. It's effortless now for the delegate. But there's part of the events which is the face-to-face interaction, which as humans we need, we crave it, so it's not an either or. It's nice to have a bit of both, but I'd like to get back to the, like how it was as well, where we are meeting in face-to-face and we are having coffees and networking events and ice-breaking events and actually connecting people to people.
But what is it you think when you have that physical quality of 2 people, 5 people, 10, 100 people in a room, what makes it so different?
I think it's the chemistry, and I think it's human interaction, that sort of chemical reaction that you have with certain people where you click immediately or you don't. You know, when you meet face to face, you tend to digress quite a bit to talk about perhaps, you know, other things other than just the event. Whereas I've found when I've been on virtual platforms, we stick to the subject theme. We're also getting a little bit of screen fatigue and what have you. And I think, you know, humans, with mobile people, we like to walk around. That freedom that you have of being able to go into a different keynote or walk to another building, or, you know, it's all to do with the movement as well of people, and not just being static at your computer screen, you know, going into different breakout rooms on a session board. It's just not the same.
Yeah, actually, that's very relevant, isn't it? So you touched on 2 points there. One, you call the chemistry, and I probably call it, yeah, the energy, because of course we all ultimately emit energy, don't we? And we can get a greater feel for that when we are actually physically with somebody than we can through a computer screen. And then, of course, the other thing you said, of course, is people are getting up. Now, of course, that creates energy in itself. But it also makes someone more energetic by the fact that they're not just sitting. You know, we all know how we feel if we're stuck in a conference and the speaker goes
absolutely
on, or we, you know, we don't have time for a break. We're stuck there for 2 hours versus actually we just get up. Whereas a breakout room, okay, you might rush off and go and get your cup of tea, but then you're back to sitting down again in the same position. So perhaps even though we may feel enthusiastic, our enthusiasm stops, like you said, screen fatigue, it stops coming across because we're not physically having those little breaks that we would otherwise have.
And I mean, you know, when you're event planning, there's a huge part of it that's actually called the visitor journey. You know, it is the delegate journey, a customer journey, whatever you want to call it. You know, retailers have the same for people coming into their stores. So it's really understanding the persona of the person that's coming to your event. So, you know, what are the touch points, you know, that you're marketing and communicating with them on, you know, from initially, you know, you countdown clock to the event, the travel, the hotel. There's a whole experience, you know, especially if you're flying abroad for an event, then it's that whole event sort of tourism aspect as well, which you don't have when you're sitting in your lounge or your office from home.
No matter how great your virtual background may be.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen some wonderful ones, believe me, you know, Seychelles and what have you.
Yeah, wishful thinking, a lot of it, isn't it? Absolutely. And I also think the third factor that perhaps inhibits people is not everybody is good on a screen.
Yes.
Some people just can't, they feel too unnatural. And as per episode 3 of this podcast, where we talked about sort of virtual meetings and Zoom meetings, that a lot of the time you're distracted by your own reflection when you're trying to speak to somebody as well.
Yeah, and you know, people are different, like you said. You know, I mean, I've got a natural outgoing personality because I started off in sales, ad sales, straight from university. You know, it was our first job, smile when you dial, all these cliche expressions when you get on the phone. So I feel quite comfortable, you know, being the icebreaker. But you know, when you've got events, you and your team of colleagues, you're actually paving the way for somebody else as well. You're being the icebreaker for them. So yes, I think, you know, it's not for everybody being online. So it does limit some people, and that's a shame.
And I think particularly as well for speakers, from what I've seen, there's almost nowhere to hide when they're on screen as well. I've really noticed that. I mean, whenever I stand on stage and speak, most of my stuff is little prompts, and then I know what it is I want to say, and a lot of it becomes ad lib because I just feel the mood. But I've really witnessed listening to some people, and they're just there, you know, with their piece of paper, and
absolutely, and they've got no feedback either. They've got no audience engagement, you know, apart from a chat screen, and someone feeding you questions or post-it notes or whatever. So it's quite isolating, I think, as well.
Yeah, and can be very difficult to exude your personality and your exuberance and your stage presence, because
you can't walk up and down the stage. I have seen some great presenters, you know, stand at a keyboard, but then, you know, it's not like being on a 70-foot, you know, 700 feet stage setting where you're walking up and down and you're expressing yourself. You literally got this, like I am now to you, you know, this sort of passport photo booth vision.
And
but, you know, then you can use audio and videos and other stuff, but it's still not the same.
Yeah, and it really highlight people's body language and gestures, I've noticed as well. So, I mean, you're normally, you try to keep your hands pretty still. There might be a little bit of flair every now and again. I think I've just started to notice it so much because you have only got this little box and you have someone with big hands here and you see them gesturing. And this looks distracting, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, absolutely, yeah.
I was on stage doing a bit of this. You might not be quite.
I think of the Kenny Everett comedian, yeah.
So there is no. I'm going to cross my legs like this now. There is nowhere to. It's Kenny Everett, isn't it? There is nowhere to. There is nowhere to hide. So
absolutely.
Obviously, we're going to go on to what you're doing, which I think is phenomenal with this resilience that you've shown and this ability to kind of reinvent or to sidetrack on what you're doing. But from what you know of all your colleagues, what's the
quite a lot of them are out of work and depending. My industry's full of freelancers, and that's really what I was. I freelanced so that I had the flexibility to work. And a lot of the freelancers, there's about 3 million of us in the UK, and we've actually set up a group called Excluded .co.uk on Facebook because we've just simply been forgotten. We don't qualify for a bounce back loan. We don't qualify for furlough. There's very little support for this sector, and it's devastating because livelihoods are just completely gone to the wall. And if this is your core competency as it is mine, I love events. I've worked in consumer public big festival shows, like I said, to high-end strategic technology conferences where you've got real high-powered global thought leaders. All of that's just sort of gone to the wire at the moment. So it's very, very disheartening. There's some great people out there that have just been really left out in the cold.
Such a pity. It will get better. It will.
It will get better. And I'm having said that, the event sector, when you do an event of any kind, conference, exhibition, an awards ceremony, whatever, we're really good at having a plan B. We always have a contingency. And I think I know we hit upon this when you said the word resilience. So you've got that inbuilt resilience to just sort of flick a switch and think, okay, that's crashed and burned, let's go straight to operation B. But I think at times like this we're all almost relying on plan C. And that's really where my new ventures come from, is plan C.
Yes, so you had a plan C. Tell us about plan C.
Well, it started quite accidentally. We're all most of the event people that I know, we're very creative. We're quite innovative and positive in our approach because we deal with so many different clients with different needs most of the time. It started in lockdown. I was watching Gordon Ramsay with my son doing his lockdown cookery sessions. Oh God, they were so entertaining because his daughter Tilly was filming them with her mobile phone. And so my son, he absolutely adores Gordon Ramsay. We just thought we'd emulate that in our own kitchen and do something fun ourselves because, we do a lot of cooking together. Schools were home, we were in lockdown, trying to entertain, children, as you know, when you're multitasking is always a challenge. So we started filming. And then my son, he's very tech savvy, posted this information on YouTube, and before you know it, had X amount of followers and so many clicks and so many views. And lots of requests from friends, my inner circle of mums who are like me, juggling career and home, saying, you make it look so easy. Can you do, aloo gobi? Can you do this? Can you do that? So I started to do sort of like recipes every 2 or 3 weeks. And so much so that I've now actually set up a business to promote authentic Indian cooking with a bit of a modern twist, and people can actually watch my YouTube channel and cook along with me, so it's great fun.
Yeah, I've watched some of your videos, and actually you've got a lovely setup. It looks like a really quite a good professional kitchen, a lovely online presence, and
Thank you.
just taking people through these simple dishes.
Yeah. Well, the kitchen doesn't always look like that, I can tell you. It's white, which is really difficult. When I had it installed a few years ago, I do remember people saying, well, you cook a lot of Indian, so you're going to be all right with turmeric on the white stone. And, fingers crossed I've been okay. But it does take a big, deep clean before and after. So Yeah, it's good fun. I could do with some help in the kitchen, let's put it like that.
So is your son still the one filming you?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And you know, that in itself has had a lot of attention, you know, people that we know and his friends, and even his school teachers, because he's been sharing my videos with his teachers who have started to cook along with me too. Yeah, it's been really enjoyable actually. And it's one of my passions, cooking, especially Indian food, because my origins are Punjabi Indian. So it's great to do something that comes so naturally, to share it with somebody and actually make a difference to their day because they feel they've learned something. So it's good fun.
Yeah, so this is part of you engaging with your passion, having some fun, having some bonding time with your son.
Yes, absolutely.
Which
Yeah.
of course is another passion. You know, he's a teenager, right?
Sorry about that.
Right.
Yes, he is. He's a
Teenager.
teenager. So I mean, anything that involves technology, he's there, you know, so that's the good thing.
Yeah, my son also is definitely an aspiring YouTuber. So I feel like I'm turning into my parents. I remember when I was a kid showing my parents, you know, how to work the video recorder, and not that we even have. Do we even have video recorders nowadays?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm thinking my parents were so backwards, and now you start to find yourself getting into the same old situation where they look at you saying, "Oh, mom," you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is always quite amusing for sure. So now your recipes, where do you get your inspiration from?
Right, so the inspiration is really from my childhood, and over the years what I've done is, I mean, you know, even at university I'd be, you know, after we'd been to the disco for the evening, I'd be the one in the kitchen knocking something up for my friends and they'd all congregate back. I love hosting, I really do enjoy cooking. So my inspiration comes from a lot of different directions. Childhood recipes from the family home, recipes picked up through, you know, just hanging out with my mom and my aunties in somebody else's kitchen, watching them do something different. And then over the years, just sort of perfecting those and changing them and making them a little bit more cosmopolitan. So, you know, I love Arabic food, I love Greek food, I love Italian food, most foods I love. And thankfully that's something that my son's grown up with. You know, he's not a fussy eater, he'll eat what I'm having, and he equally enjoys different foods. So a lot of my inspiration's been sort of a mixing and merging of different tastes that I've enjoyed with different foods from different restaurants and different families.
And what can you share with us about your recipes, to give us a few other teasers to get us to go on to that YouTube channel?
Yeah, so the ones at the moment on the website are pretty much homegrown recipes, real what I'd call fundamental staple dishes. You know, the equivalent of your shepherd's pie in Punjabi family is keema, which is basically mincemeat with peas and potatoes, and it's one of the top 4 or 5 Punjabi home dishes. And then a lamb curry, which is a great family favourite. But what I'm planning to do, because I've had quite a few requests, is actually to do some how-to classes. So, you know, for somebody who wants to start perhaps even Indian cooking or doesn't quite know what goes in, I want to do some tricks of the trade. What are your core 5 ingredients to use? Moving on to more elaborate dishes. I mean, you know, my spice drawers are huge. I've got every ingredient going, most spices in there, but I want to show people that if you've got the top 5, which is your salt, your onion, your garlic, your chili, your turmeric, and a masala, a good garam masala, then that's pretty much your foundation sorted. So in fact, for half term, I was looking to do a basics class for parents at home who want to get their teenagers started on cooking.
What a good idea. Yeah, what a great idea.
Easy. So yeah, watch this space. This time next week I'll probably push something out, or I might do something later on this week where we're just doing a nice fun staple dish. I might just do bhajis or something simple, you know, to get the kids eating different vegetables. And there you can use aubergines, courgettes, cauliflowers, spinach, potato, onion. So I'm looking at doing some little tapasy things, Punjabi tapas.
Because I mean, I know, like I grew up with Arabic cooking, just by sort of spending time with my mum in the kitchen. So yeah, we always had those particular. We have, again, in Arabic food, it's not so much the chili, but still a lot of very fragrant spices. So we'd add in
Yes.
cardamom, black cardamom. There's kind of a baseline of spice and herbs in there that we just chuck in with everything in different proportions.
Absolutely beautiful.
But
and I think the one we share is the turmeric. That's and the paprika. That's quite a solid base between the two regions.
Yeah, absolutely. Coriander, and
yes, coriander,
brown
for sure.
a massive one in Arabic food. But so I mean, I grew up with that, so it was just completely normal. But Indian food for me was completely, I still wouldn't know. I couldn't cooking curry from a jar.
Top notes. Tell me what you enjoy the most, and I'll do a special recipe for you next time I do one in the kitchen.
You told me about the biryani, which actually is not that dissimilar to how I would make an Arabic biryani, except the Arabic biryani we put a lot of saffron and cardamom in there as well.
Saffron, yeah. I didn't have any at the time.
Yeah,
but it is lovely with saffron.
Really fragrant flavors, but otherwise, I was always a stickler for a good old, the British favorite, chicken tikka masala.
Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? Indian food is the top choice in the UK, for outdoor dining. So I do love that. I love the fact that people really enjoy the food. It's great.
Absolutely. So you have also then established a website as well. So we should say your YouTube channel is called Curry Queen's Kitchen. That's the name of the channel. And if anyone has difficulty finding it, just look up Lockdown Lamb Curry. So that shows you how innovative Corby was. And you will find Curry Queen's Kitchen. And your website is curryqueenskitchen.co.uk.
That's right. Absolutely right.
So
yes.
What have you got on the website?
So on the website, I have got the one that I started with, the classic dish. I mean, you can see it because, I've got brooms in the corner of the kitchen. I'm so non-TV filming person. And I made the Lockdown Lamb Curry, I also showed how to make traditional basmati rice, because I know a lot of people struggle with that, with how much water to put in and etc. So I gave away a few little tips there on that one. What I'm moving towards is obviously moving more towards plant-based foods as well. So I'm going to do a vegetarian type menu, really looking at plant-based foods like that are much healthier for you. So I'm going to start that off now with the Punjabi tapas, just doing like the bagadi and the bhajis, moving on to more vegetarian dishes that are lighter and nutritious. And in fact, I'm in conversation with a few people that run a fitness firm, and we're looking to join up on a few projects, do some collaborations where I'm offering some organic recipes and some vegetarian recipes, which are so much tastier when you cook them Indian style, much better than what you get off the shelf. Your plant kitchen cauliflower is just got nothing on the one that I'm doing at home. So I'm looking forward to rolling that out.
Yes, and actually so relevant to have organic food, to have plant-based foods. The amount of nutrition that we're able to absorb from that is much more natural for our body, much more nutritious, gives us energy, gives it to us more immediately, better absorbed, less bloating.
Yes. And, and all the other fundamentals like the Indian ingredients. I mean, your garlic, the Italian Mediterranean diet has known about garlic for centuries, and that's core in Indian cooking. The garlic, the heat from the ginger, which is anti-inflammatory, the turmeric, the cardamom, the cinnamons. These are all these spices have enormous health benefits. So I'm thinking even in our climate at the moment, with all these viruses going around, it's just a great way to keep on top of your game health-wise. It's also very economical. And in fact, I've been looking at some of the ingredients that goes to food banks, which is, we here in my neighbourhood set up a neighbourhood distribution chain where we were all contributing ingredients to the local food bank. And again, I've got some ideas there to make up some nice, small, easy, creative menus with that food in those bags, just to sort of, you can eat well on the cheap as well, and to, taste is something that everyone should enjoy, and it shouldn't be exclusive to your income.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know from you, this is the thing, I hear all your enthusiasm. Obviously, you've got all this enthusiasm from the events industry. You're obviously well organized. You can multitask. You can.
I don't know about that. Thank you.
It certainly sounds like you can, given what you have to do in the event, everything you've done in the events industry,
Yeah.
with having to juggle everything and like I say, think plan B, think plan C, reinventing yourself. Where do you get your energy from?
I have a lot of sleep at the weekends. I think it's more energy, it's more outlook. I've said to my son a few times, what does the word resilience mean to you? And it's great having all these different answers. But I think, fundamentally, it is about looking to the future. And especially now with us all in this pandemic, and, every day can feel like Groundhog Day. And you think, has anything changed? You watch the news. Of course, you need to watch the news because you want to know what's going on, but it's quite an energy drain as you see the numbers going up. And I suppose the resilience comes from the energy which you internalize into a positive energy, which is really about putting yourself in the future, knowing it won't always be like this, and actually taking comfort in the fact that hope is the future. So you've got to have hope. People might call that positivity or positive outlook, but I think if you've got to try and create that and hold on to it. And it's almost like, holding on to something, you're on the sea and you're holding on to the power boat or whatever. You've really got to hold on to hope and just know it won't be like this. Each time we're getting closer towards something else. We don't quite know what it is, whether it's a vaccine, whether it's, a new way of doing things. Look at us now, we're on a journey somewhere. So you've got to have that hope.
Yeah. So, and of course that does go beyond just positive thinking. It does go onto a way of being, really. It's about, because when you truly believe in your heart that it's all going to work out, then you start to resonate at a much higher level, a level of gratitude. You go beyond acceptance. You stop sort of feeling sorry for yourself. But the trouble is, a lot of the time we try to create distractions in ourselves. So we try to do things to make ourselves feel better. And I think this is why people are having such a hard time at the moment, because there's not a lot they can do. So it's about recognizing actually there is, and you're a wonderful example of that, that you can.
Yeah, and I'm here today on camera, and I look quite chirpy, and I think it's really important for people to say that I have good days and I have bad days, and I think, since this whole thing has started back in early March, we are almost on a roller coaster where we have some great days and we have some really low moments, and that's natural. And not to dwell on the low, and just be kind to yourself and think, I'm entitled to feel like this, because there is something much bigger than me going on outside of these walls or whatever, and just really be kind to yourself and be kind to others. I think that's fundamental.
You yourself had said, you spent a long time sleeping, and also doing yoga.
Yes, yeah. It's funny, yoga was something I did. In fact, the last time I did yoga was pregnancy yoga, and that was when my son is 13, just turned 14. But I went back to yoga and Vinyasa flow and what have you, and I just find that so grounding. So I think you've got to really dig deep and find what resonates with you, what works for you. Is it chill music? Is it having a weekly bubble bath? Is it a glass of wine? Is it yoga? Is it a run in the park? And do the things that you enjoy, that sort of replenish you, that make you feel good about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about, and sometimes people again get lost on how to actually identify that, or they feel so down in the doldrums they just can't be bothered. But if you just start to do it, you can actually just bring it. It's about helping you to become grounded, bringing you back into the present. I know you talked about looking at the future and hope, but a lot of the time people aren't even looking into the future. They're looking into the past of what might have been, and therefore aren't able to accept that it's different now. So it's the start of it in learning to ground in order to be present. I mean, one of the things I get my clients to do is a process that we call scripting. So
Right.
it's a way of journaling, but you just script out your future for how you anticipate it to be, not based on your current reality, which might be how much income you have in the bank or whatever. So, for example, Corby, you might be sitting there scripting out, your new business, Curry Queen's Kitchen, and you'll say, by the end of this year, it will have, 1,000 subscribers, and my website will have however many hits, and I'll be homing in my contacts because you worked with the BBC, and I'll be, doing my cookbook, and I'm going to have my TV show, and even just scripting that out. See, I'm just telling you, and you're getting a smile on your face.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this
sounds great.
It is a process of raising your energy, and it's just playing a game. I mean, that's what I do with a lot of my clients, because I'm all about, it's one of the names of the podcast is about, being fun. And it is actually, if we create that element of fun, nothing then seems like a chore. So you just have fun scripting out the process for how you and want something to be, but how you also not just want it, but you anticipate it to be, and it immediately sets your energy forwards for that, to be able to visualize it. And I'll put actually in the comments for this video one of my free gifts that I offer, which is what you said about the boat, and it's an immediate tool. It's a 5-minute audio to you instantly feel better. And it is about you're on a pier and you're watching this boat with your scripted life on there as the boat starts to come closer, and then it's called the 5-minute switch, because I switch you to be on the boat. And you come away within 5 minutes just immediately feeling happier and more lifted. So there are all kinds of little techniques and tactics we can do to help us feel better. And when we feel better, we're going to be more proactive to move forwards.
And is that in your book? Because I've been looking to get a hold of the copy, actually. Is that in your book? The 5-minute boat?
The 5-minute, no, it's an audio. I'm going to put it in the link to the that goes with this video. I'll put it in the comments, because it's a free download that I offer as a gift. And it really is 5 minutes of listening to this anytime you want to start a new project, anytime you just want a pick-me-up, because it can be difficult we lose sight of the things that we believe are going to cheer us up, and it just brings us back to see that.
To know.
Yeah. Now, my book obviously covers all kinds of different aspects. It covers, your relationships, your money mindset, your leadership, your fun, your finding the time, how we deal with our kids, how we deal with our parents, elements of gratitude, all kinds of sort of things, every different aspect of your life. But this is just one particular tool. So scripting and switching into that script can be really powerful.
I think it's fundamental, to have tools like that in your kit bag, and it's great. It's lovely that we've met, because I think you're offering a lot of inspiration to a lot of people who perhaps are looking for a beacon of light, a vision of hope or whatever. And I think it's great that to meet people that are doing that. So it's wonderful that we've met on the group that we did.
Yeah, and it's about learning to, and I'd love you to comment on this, but it is about stepping out of, because you've done exactly that. It's about stepping out of what you are an expert in the events industry, and we can talk more about, the work you've done, with like Cisco and technology. You absolutely wowed me when you told me all the things that technology can create for even a small business, which I just had absolutely no idea about. But yet you've been able to step out of the box, sort of, and I don't think it was a natural process of sitting there thinking, oh, what am I passionate about, and where do I think my purpose is? But it was a natural evolution.
Yeah, it's accidental, really, accidental chef, if you'd like to call it. And I think this is a thing, we spend so long when we're growing up, going through the educational system, being something or somebody, but there are other things to us, to our personality, that we just don't know about. And it's almost, do what you're good at and do what you enjoy and do more of it. And I've always loved cooking, but quite frankly, I spent my whole life on trains and planes commuting. I've never had this period of this lull to actually think, I can do something differently. So in that respect, I think for quite a few people, the lockdown has been a point of reflection for a lot of us to think, where are we going? What are we doing? What's it all about? And that inward reflection and that outward projection, you know, what do you, where do you go from here? What do you want to do? So in that way, that element has been positive for me.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think I would probably add that to that piece of advice based on what you've done. And I know, again, what I say to so many of my clients is actually think about what it is you are truly passionate about. And a passion doesn't have to be a career. A passion is something that, well, that lights you up, something that makes you feel enthusiastic about something, something that when the day is over, you look back and you think that was a really good day because you had either done or been a certain way. Then that's a clue to your passion.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so once you align with your passions, it's about raising your energy to a certain level to be able to create and to attract things into your life and with people.
Absolutely.
So we were discussing the other day as well, you know, I know you also have a passion for education.
Yes, I retrained as a Montessori teacher when my son was born. Again, I was at a stopgap there because, you know, I at the time I felt I didn't want to go back to the events industry because it was all consuming, and my role in my life had changed. You know, I'm no longer able to jump on planes and trains, and I was hugely passionate at that time, and I still am, in child development and, you know, what makes children tick and how do they develop and how do they grow. And having a boy, of course, I was like, well, if I had a daughter, I'd know totally how to relate to her, you know, paint her nails, take her out shopping. And I was like, right, okay, I've got a boy, what do I do? You know, how does his mind work? And you know, be fortunate enough, you know, to, you know, have grown up with a brother and lots of male friends over my life, career history and university history. I've got lots of male friends, so felt quite comfortable there. But I started reading sort of the natural child development, child theories, and it led me into Montessori education, which was a really nice principle, actually originated from Italy, but it was really looking at the child holistically in the whole, in the round. So it's not all about, you know, your 3 R's. It's not about that. It's about following the child and working with the child when you're following them. So, you know, like now, for example, we have curriculum, you know, where you've got to do maths and English in the morning. The child might not be in the frame of mind to do maths and English in the morning. They might just want to do painting or playing in the sandpit. So it was sort of this journey of learning and teaching children through what they're naturally drawn to, where they almost begin to self-navigate. And I see that with my son because I experimented with him when he was a child. And it was, you know, sometimes if things are out of bounds, you want them more, you know, like they'll say, don't give the child a biscuit tin or a chocolate box or whatever. But actually allowing them that freedom takes away the need to want to, you know, dive in and have all the cookies in the jar, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I did enjoy that.
So how can we correlate that to people's everyday lives when they grow up?
I think, you know, the go with the flow is, you know, live and let live a little bit more. I think they're really good metaphors for just your life's journey, because I think sometimes we spend so long, and this links back to passion as well, trying to be something that we're not. And if we were a little bit more tolerant of other people and just accepting that we all have strengths somewhere, you may just not have found them, or you just don't portray them, and do what you're good at, do what you enjoy, because if you do what you're good at and what you enjoy, I think you're going to be more fulfilled in life.
Very much so, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the secrets, really. You know, why spend so long doing something you dislike? But the problem is that a lot of the time people will feel powerless to change that. You know, they feel bound. They don't feel free. They feel bound by the fact that they need a certain amount of money, so they can't do the X, Y, Z. But it's about, you don't have to make it into a career. So, for example, if you happen to be a writer and you don't have time to publish things. You could do your day job, but you could spend the mornings writing, the evenings writing, spend other times doing something that you're good at or that you're passionate about. And the more you do it, the more something is likely to come of it. So these are ways to get unbound, to get unstuck, to think less conventionally, which of course is what, like what you're saying, even from the Montessori mindset upwards, is what we forget. But when we're growing up, we start off without a rule book, but we create the rule book. And unfortunately, and of course, part of that is how we bring our children up, you know, with a whole set of rules and boundaries and so on. But we forget that we've invented the rule book, and the only person holding ourselves back truly is us. We can tear up that rule book and write our own once again.
Yeah, and I think there is a shift as well, even in the workplace. You know, when I entered the workplace straight after university, you had to be pretty much good at everything. But I think I'm looking at like my niece's generation, you know, the millennials, they're far kinder in that respect. They are more focused on their strengths. And I think a colleague of ours mentioned it recently about the Strength Finder, that the book about, you know, work. There's a great book out called Strength Finder, and it is, you know, people want to be good at everything. Well, you're not good at everything. Just accept what you're good at and go with it. And don't feel that you're inadequate by not being good at other things. And I think if people did that more and just said, actually, you know, I'm better at maths than I am at English, and I'm just going to stick with that and not try to always be good at both, I think we'd be happier.
Very much so. Yeah. Because you'll be doing what's natural to you.
Yes.
You know, that's the thing. There's no resistance that way, because you're naturally drawn in that direction, and you're not trying to be what you're not. You know, again, it's part of about being your authentic self.
Yeah.
Right? Being who you truly are. Be that, you know, your passion, be it what you're good at, what your strengths are. Yeah. But when you do that, as everything becomes more natural, then there's no facade. People will see who you truly are inside.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know people worry about making mistakes, don't they? And I think that's the part that we've all got to get over. We're human after all.
We are. Yeah, absolutely. And a human doesn't have to mean perfect. Well, but again, you know, we can get into a debate about what's perfect and what's not perfect, because actually, when you get to the level of acceptance, everything is perfect. It's just not, you know, but by whose rule book? Just because actually perfect just means it just is, and is the way it's meant to be.
So, I mean, your background's quite interesting. So you were a periodontalist, and then you moved across into. Fascinating. What were your drivers? What made you change direction?
Yeah, so as a specialist periodontist, that obviously set me up on the speaker stage to travel around worldwide teaching. That was one of my passions. I actually wanted to be a teacher when I was growing up, and in a typical kind of Arabic family, my parents were, what do you mean be a teacher? You know, I had to be, you know, yes,
a doctor, yes,
absolutely. So
you did that tick in the box, and so you did do that, which is good.
I did, but my brother and my sister didn't. So I did it actually because I genuinely in the end wanted to go into it, and there was a bit of a family tug and a family influence there. But you know, always an incredibly high achiever. Knew that if I went to university, I wouldn't just want to do a degree. You know, all the women in my family were highly educated, so I'd have to do a master's and I'd have to do a PhD. So why not just do a 5-year degree on top? Except I then spent 11 years studying, because I then chose to specialize. You know? So I just went on and on and on, and then excelled in my career, became a complete, you know, leader in my field, traveling the world stage, you know, innovation, developing new protocols, research, teaching. So I still got into the teaching in the end. You see, the passion, that's what came through.
Yeah.
But what I was doing in my clinic was, whenever we see a patient, if someone has periodontal disease, they have a chronic illness. You know, and it's linked to heart disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, arthritis. It's very much the human body and inflammation. So it's not just about how well they happen to brush their teeth. You know, that's only a tiny part of it. So it was about tapping into people's mindset, because their behavior and their psychology, what they do, what they don't do, their health positive behaviors would all have an impact. So by the time they're in my chair, be them 20 years old, 30, 40 or 60, I end up, before I even look in their mouth and do a clinical examination, I was always, they wonder why I was talking to them for half an hour, but I'd be asking about their history, their stress levels, their negative life events, what their personality was like, because that would tell me, I knew what I was going to find. So that's what I love, the psychology of it, the fascination, and getting people to take ownership of a chronic condition, which means empowering somebody, essentially. They can't just sit in my chair and I treat them, because that isn't going to work. It's going to work short term, but it's not going to work long term, because you need to empower them to take ownership, to change behavior, and you can't just tell somebody what to do. So so obviously I'm very passionate about health, but that's what really made me feel my calling amongst health and business and all the rest of it was to take it a step further beyond just health, which is when I then retrained as a coach. And obviously I wrote my book, Women Who Want More, which again is all about empowering people. How do you create balance in your life? How do you have that inner feeling of fulfillment without distracting yourself by, be it retail therapy or social media, or how many likes you have in a post, all the things that make us feel happier, albeit temporarily. How can we get that inner core of feeling great about ourselves and create balance? Because I was certainly somebody who was very much out of balance, very career focused, but other aspects of my life really suffered, which is obviously a story I share in my book. So that was my passion, to use that life experience to help others. So of course that's what I do now. I mean, I still do a couple of days in my clinic, but the rest is all coaching and speaking and writing and interviewing. All
fantastic.
Yeah, people who are like-minded. So I mean, you hear my shift, right? It's what I'm very passionate about, and it aligns with me.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I really look forward to reading the book.
Thank you. And actually, we stick on the topic of healthcare, having come back from lockdown, I don't think I cannot remember a period, having been a periodontist for over 20 years, I cannot remember a period of time where I have seen such severity of disease in my clinic.
Really?
And again, this is all, and people aren't eating any differently than, but they are. It's just because this is what we see when people are chronically stressed.
Right.
So, they undergo massive deterioration. And obviously that's what I can see because I can measure it, but we don't know what's going on with people's hearts and people's pancreas and people's joints and all the rest of it, unless you specifically choose to look for those things and draw blood. People won't be necessarily having symptoms until they have heart attacks, or they fall down and they faint because their diabetes, which wasn't even diagnosed, has gotten so bad. So I think that's something we're really forgetting about in this current situation, is what happens with actually how stress is a huge killer. And that's,
I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right. And this is something that needs to be talked about a lot more, the fact how stress can alter the mind, the body state. And, even within my circle of friends, I know we're all going through peaks and troughs at different times. And I think, with all that's going on with the pandemic, you almost need a separate movement that sits alongside of it, that says, right, now take care of yourself, please do this, please do that. Because we're hearing about numbers every day, we're hearing about lockdowns, we're hearing about restrictions, but let's have the how to help yourself while all this is going on, or to be aware that it's okay if you're feeling low, it's okay if you can't function on a Monday morning, about being kind to yourself, and not feel that you've got to have something happening every day. And if you're not achieving because you've lost your job, because a lot of people are losing their work. I mean, it's great that we're talking today about Curry Queen, and it's something that I've done, but on a serious note, we all need to work, we all need an income. This is my hobby for now. So there are a lot of people that are feeling the stress on different levels at different times. And I think, you know, we should be talking about it more openly. So it's good that you're in that space.
Very much so. I mean, you know, and I was, you know, my thesis 20 years ago was about the effect that stress had on the immune system and what it has on our health. And it saddens me that not enough people are talking about this. You know, how can we boost our immune system? And it's so much more relevant than just taking supplements. It's, you know, okay, if you want to take supplements, that's great, but what type of supplements? You touched on nutrition. Actually, the best type of supplements are based on nutrition, and there are some supplements that shouldn't be mixed with others or taken at certain times of day, or you know, you get a bottle of zinc. Well, what type of zinc should you be taking? You know, which one works the best? And then what can you do psychologically to boost your immune system? What type of exercise should you be doing to boost your immune system, and for how long? So, I mean, I've actually put together, again, I'll share it in the links, but I'll put it, I've put together a whole document called, you know, your immune booster blueprint, that gives you all of that information. So it's way beyond supplements, you know, in which case, if you want to meditate to boost your immune system, what type of meditation should you be doing? If you struggle with meditation, you know, what else can you do? And of course, I used to run and we'll restart again meditate with dance classes, which is just a really fun way to do meditation. But you know, how can we boost our immune system in so many different ways? Because that's what's going to help lift us and lift our mood and lift our morale and improve our health. That is actually going to be better than any vaccine.
Absolutely right. And you know, I'm delighted to look at your links now, because there's so much more that I'm learning about, you know, what you do, which is great. And I'll spread the love, because I think you're absolutely right. We need more of that.
It's all about also just trying to make it practical. It's like you say. So it was interesting. One of the interviews I did last week, and he'd spent 10 years out of university focusing on positive thinking, to realize that actually completely destroyed him. Because we talk about positive thinking, but it's you have to go deeper than that. And you know, how do you tell someone right now who is out of their job, struggling, you know, may have a mortgage holiday, but for how long, you know, they work in the events industry, they haven't got an option to reinvent themselves right now, and they just have to sit it out. How can you just turn around to that person and say, oh, you've got to be positive?
Exactly.
You know, what are the tools? What are the tools we can give people to actually literally lift them out of that sense of powerlessness and victim mode? Again, not meaning to sound derogatory when we talk about victim mode. It's just a label. It's that level 1 energy, where to actually start to become outward thinking. Because when you do start to become outward thinking, when you lift your energy levels to be able to do that, you will be more open to opportunities. You will see the opportunities that present themselves. And I know with you, you were already one of those people. So you started to recognize opportunities, and it may well be from the job that you've done and the life that you've led, which is allowed to has helped you become very versatile.
Yeah.
But, you know, how do we lift people out of the doldrums in the first place, so that they can see the opportunities, they can see the carrot dangling in front of them, and realize that may be a direction they can go in?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I've done more talking than asking.
I'm fascinated with what you actually do. Yes, no, that's fine. I think it's been a very balanced interview.
So yeah, we are out of time, Corby, but you really are a phenomenal inspiration to show exactly that, of how if we do lift ourselves up, if we engage with our passions, it can start with a hobby, but the more and more time you spend on it, and of course all the people who you're helping with what you're doing there, you know, you're giving people inspiration, you're giving people food for thought, you're giving people food.
Absolutely. Well, I know it does feel good, you know, when people say I've cooked one of your recipes, or you know, they've shared a post and they've got me on their iPad in their kitchen and they're cooking along, and you think it's kind of nice. What comes effortlessly to me is helping somebody else. That feels great. That really does.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know when you and I talked earlier, and I was asking you, you know, where your inspiration came from, and you'd said, you know, in a way it was just all of us in the kitchen, and everybody stirring the pot, and everybody making a contribution, which I thought was so beautiful. and I pointed out that in some ways that is a metaphor for our life. If we are the pot, people will come in, people will come out, people will stir. They'll stir in different ways. They'll add a bit of ingredients, then they'll walk away. So, it's you talk about, the spice of life and so on. But actually, our metaphor for life is actually, if we are that pot, it's whether we want to allow people to come into it, come out of it, and what role we want them to play in our lives. And you're just a living example of that.
Thank you. My goodness, I put that on my website about the stirring of the pot, but you've given it a whole new meaning. I love that.
Well, you'll have the recording so you can get the wording, and we'll phrase it for you just the way you want it. Thank you so much for joining me, Corby. I'm sure you've given a lot of hope to a lot of people today with what you've had to say. And so please do check out Corby's website, curryqueenskitchen.co.uk, and be sure to subscribe to her YouTube channel, Curry Queen's Kitchen. If you have difficulty finding it, look up Lockdown Lamb Curry and you shall find it.
I didn't realise, but there's so many curry queens around the world, but which is great. We're all doing similar things, and it's lovely that we're spreading the love globally. It's great.
Yeah, which is wonderful. So thank you again. And that's all we have time for today. So please do hit the subscribe button so you could be notified when we had another episode. So many fascinating, interesting, inspirational people and enlightening interviews to share. And so please do share it with anyone you know will benefit. I am Dr. Rana Al-Falaki. My 3 final words to you: be free, be fun, be fearless. Bye-bye. Feel on top of the world with Light Changes Coaching. Do you feel like burying your head in the sand, hoping it will all be fine when you come out? Do you know what you want, but no idea how to get it? Are you stuck on the treadmill, repeating the same old patterns, wishing the answers would just be there for you? How great would it feel to have those answers right there in the palm of your hand? Well, did you know that there is a way to get immediate answers, fast resolution of inner problems, and quick access to a higher state of awareness? After 20 years of helping people, I have perfected a special technique that allows you to tap into your intuition. Connect with your intuition in just 5 minutes a day using this special technique, Dr. Rana's gift technique, the guided intuition and fulfillment training, and you can have those light bulb moments every day. So get what you want: a job that gets you excited when you get up in the morning, a relationship where you can look across the table and think how much you love that person, a body that you're proud to have and look in the mirror and absolutely love, a bank balance that you're not afraid to look at. My gift to you is simple, quick technique to access your intuition and give you the instant answers you need to get unstuck without having to do lengthy meditations. So head on over right now to lightchangescoaching.com